Hello, today is August 22nd, 2023, and I'm joined by Miss Anna White for the Remembering Our Veterans interview at the Rocky Mountain Regional VA Medical Center, and my name is Marguerite LaPlant. So, first off, I wanted to just ask you about your childhood and where you were born and grew up.
Well, I was born in California, near Concord, a little north of San Francisco, um, and lived in California until I was about 5. And then my mother had, at that point, remarried, and we had moved to Arizona, to the middle of nowhere, near Prescott. And after an extent of years, basically grade school years, then we moved to Arkansas, and middle of nowhere there as well. I had then gone into a foster home, into the system at the state of Arkansas. And until I reached the age of 19, I was in 2 different foster homes. I graduated high school, got to go to Votech, which is now a community college, and got my secretarial certificate.
So, you said that both of those foster homes were in Arkansas?
Yes, both of them were in Arkansas, and they were a wonderful experience. Both of them were beautiful homes to be in.
Do you mind me asking, why did you have to move into a foster home out of living with your mother?
Oh, the alcoholic stepfather.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you put 1 and 1 together and get 15, and you got all of it. The abuse was there, the alcoholism, and then the inability of my mother being able to help us, to protect us as kids.
And so it must have been a kind of a mixed transition, like you were in a better home, but you were leaving. What was that kind of like going to foster homes for those years?
It was, in a way, I was like 11 years old when I first went into the first one. And that was tough for me because I didn't realize I had a problem. And so the foster family was trying to get me into some kind of therapy, and I had no clue why. I mean, I'm 11, 12, 13 years old. And I'm like, I can't live here anymore. So I asked if I could go somewhere else, and they put me in a different foster home. And so then at that point, at around 16 to 19, I stayed with this other second foster family, and graduated high school and so forth, and then went on my own from there. So I called that second family my tough love family, and my first family my hugging family. So I always kept in touch with both foster families until they've all passed away.
That's incredible that you managed to keep in touch and that it was such a positive experience. I know there's a huge mix of people you can get when you go to foster care.
Yeah, that's where I got the love that I didn't get from my mother. My mother was unable to show love, and unfortunately, my little sister had to live that with her entire life. It wasn't abuse by any means, but the neglect definitely affects you. But she turned out very good. So I can't blame my mom too much.
And you turned out good too.
Well, you make it. You have to seek your own help and really help yourself.
So, what did you end up doing in vocational school after high school?
Well, I went to vocational and got my secretarial certificate. Then the basics on accounting, just getting into more typing back then, accounting, just basic accounting.
And what year was that when you graduated with your vocational degree?
That was 1979. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I got done with that, I got a little job for a little while as a secretary. But my spirit was pulling me to go back to my mother, my real mother. I really, really wanted to spend time with her. This was much later in life that I chased her back down. But during that time, I wanted to be close to her, so I went to Colorado, where she was. She had moved from Arkansas back to Colorado, or to Colorado, I should say. So. In trying to be closer to her, I moved back to Colorado. With my secretarial experience, I got a couple little part-time jobs here in Denver, which was still the best I could get was $5 an hour back then.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was asking a lot. And if you think about it, back then, the economy was a lot different. There was a flood of us baby boomers taking up the jobs, so they didn't have to pay a whole lot back then. There was just not the demand for employees. There was too many of us, so they didn't have to pay as much. So I decided to join the Navy. I didn't have any real support from my mother, and I had gotten fired from one of my little part-time jobs when I'd gotten into an accident. Somebody rear-ended me, and I went to the doctor instead of making sure I sent off some important paperwork. So I got fired my first time. So shortly after that, I joined the Navy from Denver here through the MEP station downtown.
What made you join the Navy instead of a different branch?
Well, I did not want Marines. That was a little bit too much. Army was too much. Air Force, my father had actually gotten kicked out of the Air Force from punching an officer.
Oop.
Back in his day, so I wasn't going to go in the Air Force in case there was a,
Like the
might recognize the name. But the Navy sounded good. I loved water. And so I thought, well, this would be cool. And I thought, well, maybe I can go in the Navy and be a yeoman, as they called them in the Navy.
So how old were you when you joined the Navy?
Well, I was almost 21 when I went to what they call delayed entry.
Okay.
I was on delayed entry for 3 months. And during that 3 months, I did turn 21. So I was like one of the oldest people in boot camp, being 21. And that was okay. I felt I was mature enough to handle it, and I was. I mean, boot camp was nothing to me, except a lot of physical work, which I was okay with. I ended up being the RCPO, the Recruit Chief Petty Officer, but my feet, I buy arches, and our boots did not have arch supports. Even back then, I found that I was going to have problems with plantar fasciitis. And so that's been an issue all of my life as well, making sure I get good arches. But yeah, boot camp was a pretty good experience. Being one of the older ones, a lot of them came to me when they missed mommy.
So were you at boot camp that time, was it completely integrated between men and women, or were you separate?
Oh, it was very separate, but the men were still on. I went to Orlando, so they did have the men's side and the women's side. We did get to see them as they were marching by. At times there were classes where they were on one side of the room, we were on the other side of the room. It kind of reminds you of the Quakers.
Yeah. And so what was your MOS after boot camp?
In the Navy, my rate was, after boot camp, you don't have one. You then choose what school you want to go to. Well, I guess I did have one when I joined the Navy. My choices when I was going in, I didn't get to be yeoman. So I got a choice of being a welder, a parachute packer, or a airplane mechanic. And I wasn't packing parachutes, because when you pack parachutes, you use them. So I wasn't jumping out of planes, and I wasn't going to repair planes. And I thought, well, welding, that's cool. That's cool. I could always go back to secretarial work. Always go back to that. So I went welding and damage control. It was the hull technician back then, which was the pipe fitting, the welding. So my A school, which was then in Philadelphia, during the winter, of course.
Oh.
Yeah. A school, you went through all of the metal part of it, which is the pipe fitting and the welding, and then also sheet metal mechanic, all of those things. You learn all those skills. And then they also had damage control, which at that time, damage control and hull technician was one entity, and the damage control was your firefighting and your pipe wrapping, putting plugs on pipes and plugging walls if you get bombed, whatever the case may be. We would fix it, the damage control and would, or the hull technicians at the time. In 1985, they had broken the damage control and the hull technician into two. They split the rates. And so I went ahead and crawled over to the damage control side.
And so when you were training, you were learning damage control, and so you were learning both jobs. That must have been a lot of responsibility.
Well, that was just for A school.
Okay.
That was just for the A school. And then you applied that to whatever station you went to.
Was that when you got out of A school?
Yep, this was my A school look.
I love it.
This is me back then.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 2 kids brought the wrinkles. That's why I look the way I do now.
And time.
No, just the kids.
The stress.
Yeah, the stress. No.
So, what was your first duty assignment after you graduated all of your
when I graduated,
training?
My first duty station, of all places, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii.
Wow.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Never expected it. I was shocked. It was wonderful. The submarine base in Pearl Harbor. This was their little anthem, their little drawing that they had representing themselves. And I do have a picture of what it looked like back then. And I don't know if you can see that, but there are a lot of areas that are gone, completely changed, totally just, the whole place is different. So, thank you. I was stationed at the submarine base as a sheet metal mechanic, my first about a year and a half I was there. And I was making sheet metal boxes. In fact, I still have the very first sheet metal box I ever made.
Wow.
That was a practice.
It's a good memory.
Mm-hmm. And right now it's got all my stickers all over it from wherever I've been and whatever I've done and collected. So I still keep that box. That thing will be what do I want to call it? Something I'm going to hand down.
Family heirloom.
Yeah, it'll be a family heirloom. Yeah, I mean, I did all the bending and the cutting and the welding. It's a beautiful little box that hinges. And I mean, I'll just.
Well, I imagine that's something to be proud of. Like you do your first box and it turns out really well, and you're just something you've kept with you all these years.
Oh,
so.
Absolutely. And it's like storage box. It's just a heavy one because it's made
Yeah.
out of aluminum. But the interesting things that we ended up making for the submarines, because that's what I was working on at the time, they would send us drawings. And this one drawing, and I made the box. I made the box for them, but my hand couldn't fit into the opening of the box, let alone the guy's hands that wanted it in their submarine cubbyhole. I mean, the submarine doesn't have a whole lot of room, so, they've got to get authorization to be able to add any extra weight to the submarine, number one, and where it's going, And so they got authorization for this little box to put in somewhere on the submarine. I'll never forget it.
The box they couldn't really use.
Yeah, I mean, okay, what are you going to hide in this box?
So at that time, were you, because I know you said you're doing a lot of like welding and like pretty intense work. Was it kind of like a male dominated world?
Absolutely.
I imagine especially welding would be.
Oh, absolutely. There were the guys that did not want us there. Oh my goodness. And they gave us a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, with my history of abuse from males, especially my mother's husband, I tolerated it because they couldn't touch me. They could not touch me. And if they did, they were going down.
Yeah.
So that was my safety. You can do whatever you want, say whatever you want, but don't you touch me. So, and keeping that rule, number one, kept me feeling safer.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel like you ever had to prove yourself extra?
Always.
Couldn't make a mistake?
The common sense between us females was we had to work twice as hard to prove we were half as good. Mm-hmm. And even though we did not. I got one accolade. I did get a Navy Achievement Medal. And that was for when we went to Gitmo. We were the very last ship to go to Cuba for the training on one of my ships. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. So how long were you in Hawaii total?
I was there from 82 to 85. In 1984, I had my first son.
Wow. So how did you meet your son's father?
I had too much fun in Hawaii.
So he was a native there?
No, he was a bubblehead. he was a submariner. As they say, anyway, I dated a lot. I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun in Hawaii. There was subs coming in. There were subs all over the place. Men everywhere. And you just have a lot of fun.
So, to have your son, did you like take time off?
No.
Or how did that work?
They only allowed us 30 days of leave after you had the baby.
And none before?
None before. I mean, you worked up until you dropped it, basically. I'm serious. You just go, you are working. You might be on light duty. Okay, you might be on light duty. In fact, what happened for me was when I'd gotten pregnant, they took me out of the sheet metal shop, put me in the insulation shop. So I was doing some insulating, coordinating that. And then when I got even further along, when I went to the second, third trimester, they put me into quality assurance, and I was doing training. I was actually training the people how to keep control of their materials. The parts tracking for submarines is tag after tag after tag. There's just so much paperwork involved with submarine work requalification certifications, to where it reached a point after I'd had Richard, I ended up being in a quality assurance supervisor. And so the submarine could not get underway until their package was complete. And that might mean that at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're in your office waiting on the welder to get done and the inspector to inspect that weld before you can sign off the package. And then have it was a lot. There was one time where I was running to the submarine for the captain to sign his package before he got underway. I mean, he's ready to leave, and it's like, you can't leave until this is done. And he's got the boat in reverse. He's ready to go. He's ready to go.
So did you end up getting married to your child's father,
No.
or you were not together after
No,
that?
not at all. He denied being the father.
Oh, no.
And so it's like, fine, I don't have to ever worry about a man messing with my child this way. I don't have to worry about, it's mine. I'll raise him my way.
So did you have to switch jobs to not be on a ship after you had him, or what did that look like afterwards?
No, I wasn't on a ship until I went to
Hawaii was just the base. It was
right,
not,
just
okay,
a submarine
yes.
base. Yeah, they had a couple of ships out there. One of them was a repair ship, which I did not go on ever. I mean, I was on the sub base. I was dealing all with submarines.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a different world on the other side of the bay. You know, it was like, oh, you're bubblehead workers, because we stunk different. When you get on a submarine and you've been on them for a little while, even just a few minutes, you can smell it when you go in, but you smell like it because it permeates your entire clothing and your hair and everything. So my baby boy, he's 21 in the Marine Corps. He calls me from San Diego, and he's like, Mom, I just passed a couple guys off a submarine. I thought of you.
You remembered the smell.
And smells associated. It's like, oh my God, my son associates a submarine with mother. But it's so heartwarming. It really is.
Was that kind of hard navigating, raising him as a single mother while also working full time?
It was. I mean, because I still wanted to have fun. So I had babysitters. And back then, luckily, babysitting didn't cost an arm and a leg and the left, you know what. It worked out pretty well because I was actually working with other sailors' wives, usually. And so we would get to know, it's like I would know the sailor, get to know his wife, and they would usually be in the housing area where I was at, because I was able to get in housing since I had a kid. Mm-hmm. And so there was, neighbors all over the place that had kids, because you had to have kids or a spouse to get into housing.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That seems like it's, takes a village to raise a mentality, and it seems like you had a village there to help.
And I actually went back by there last time I went to Hawaii. This has been 30 some years later, and the whole housing area has changed. The house I lived in is gone. It's an exercise area now. It's like everything I would actually participate in or lived at or worked out of is gone.
Kind of crazy.
It is.
Just 30 years. So after Hawaii, what was your next job assignment, or you remained in the Navy then?
Oh, absolutely. I had the choice to get out, but I said no way. I wanted to stay in because there was no prospects for a job. I did get a new duty station. It was going to be on the East Coast. However, it was a instructing position in Philadelphia, where I had actually gone to A school.
Yeah.
I was going to teach the damage control side of A school in Philadelphia.
Full circle moment.
It was wonderful. It was cool. So I had a lot of fun teaching, and I was the career counselor as well for about a year for them. But we taught a lot. I mean, we taught boat repair, and I know how to do that. Fiberglass boat repair. Like, you got a hole in it, I know how to fix it. Some motors and pumps and valves. I know how to fix all those. My knees won't let me nowadays to get in there, and I don't want to work full time.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm done. I did my hard work already.
So how long were you in Philadelphia?
Philadelphia now. I was there for three and a half years, and I taught the A school firefighting. And that's where then I met my first husband, Bill. So I met Bill, nice guy, married him in '88, and we had gotten stationed then in Virginia, because that's where my first ship was. And he was a boiler tech second class, where I was a hull tech first class. And at that time, boiler techs were being phased out. So he got the shore duty, and I got ship duty. And I was hoping, like anything, that he would get the ship duty and I would get the shore duty. But no, the welder was much more important out to sea.
So what ship were you on when you got that assignment?
Okay, my first ship was the USS Platte, AO 186, an oiler. And it basically carried the fuels, diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, and you would see all those piping systems, they all have different colors. Running through the ship, you see all these purples and golds as well, which was sewage. But you would have all these colored valves and pipes throughout the ship, identifying what was carrying them. But I was on that ship for only about 6 months. I had a problem with one of the sailors on that ship. He outranked me. He was also a hull technician, damage controlman at the time now. But he was an instructor at the hull tech school where I was an instructor. And he had a lot of drinking problems, marital problems. And here he is on this ship, and I didn't trust him. I felt my life and the entire lives of people on board that ship were in danger because of him.
Because of his drinking, you just didn't think he was
For,
responsible.
exactly. I did not find that he was going to be the right person in case of an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would be the person that would not let anybody else in to take control. He's one of those kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
To where if I felt that I had better control of the situation, could handle it, being a female, he would not let me in there. So I could not do it. And it reached a point where I wanted to commit suicide. I was so scared of just being on that ship. I dreaded coming in every day. I just dreaded it. It reached a point where I actually found a way to commit suicide. I was a certified, what they called gas-free engineer back then in the Navy. Mm-hmm. Gas-free engineer on the outside is a little bit different. But I was certified to certify tanks, as being able to go down in them, being able to weld in them. I could certify or actually do the inspections and then have the division officer sign off on it. Well, I went down one trunk and my oxygen indicator went off, telling me that I had low oxygen in that tank, in that trunk that I was going down. And when that thing went off, I automatically thought, oh, here's a way out. And I came back out of that trunk and I said, I got to get off the ship. And I turned myself into the hospital. I went to the VA hospital there in Portsmouth, Virginia, and checked myself into 3G.
That sounds horrible that he just got in your mind and he made you not feel safe. Where you're supposed to feel safe as a woman, that's especially as a woman.
And then it went on even further because my husband didn't believe me. He thought I was just trying to get attention. So, of course, that marriage did not last long.
Yeah.
But I actually had a son for him in 1990 while I was still in the Navy there in Virginia. And while I was pregnant with him, they took me away from the ship and I went to the amphibious base where they have the amphibious ships that carry the Marines and the other kind of boats and it's like two different bases there in Virginia. So I was a dock master while I was pregnant with my second son. And basically what that was you would communicate with the pilot on the big ship as he's bringing the ship in. You would be on the dock telling him the numbers as he was bringing that ship in, so then he could stop the ship in the right place. So that was kind of neat.
Did it help a lot to be just away from that ship with him? Or was there
Absolutely.
like a lot of residual trauma, or did you?
Well, the trauma kind of continued on because of the lack of support from the husband, mm-hmm. from the male that I married. And so it was like, this is, life is crazy again. It's crazy. And I wanted to commit suicide. I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
I got to get out of this. So in 93, I got out of the Navy because I knew that I had to get out of the Navy to raise my boys. If I wanted my boys, I had to get out of the Navy. Mm-hmm. So I got out for them. And to this day, I regret that. I wished I'd stayed in.
So you said you got out in 93?
Mm-hmm.
So before you got out, did you have any other tours or other duty that you did before then?
Yeah, after I left the Platte and things got better and I had mm-hmm. Matthew, in 91, I went on board the USS Sylvania, AFS-2. And we called it the food ship, the attack food ship, I should say, AFS, attack food ship. Because what we did on that ship was we were a support ship supplying the other ships with food and equipment and gear and anything they had ordered. We had a helicopter pad to where we had 2 helicopters with us and other helicopters with different groups. That's what the squadrons. We'd have these different squadrons come join us for our med cruises, and they would have the helicopters do their work on them. We would support them with the firefighting services protection as they would do their jobs. So we would always be at our stations whenever helicopters. And I had put myself on a hose reel at one point so I could be out there watching the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And usually I've assigned everybody else their jobs and stuff. But that one I was able to go on a couple cruises with over to the Mediterranean. So I got to see a lot of countries. And I actually created 2 cruise books out of the one cruise. And it's just 2 big old photo albums just full of pictures I took and postcards I got, little memories that I noted. And I actually went to, let's see, I'll just read the top page.
Yeah.
Okay, my bed cruise was March 20th to June 15th, 1992. And on this one, we went to Spain, Crete, which is in Greece, and other parts of Greece, Egypt, Israel, Italy, France, and back to the USA. And so with all those in mind, I was able to get on different excursions. You would think I was on a real cruise. I mean, these were the best cruises. The military, where you're working and you're actually getting to see the places.
Yeah.
Here's one where I'd like to show that one.
Yeah.
This is well, that one was interesting. I don't know if I want to show that, but this is this was the kiddie cruise where you got to bring your kid on board. So there's my oldest boy right there, sitting with me, and I'm at work.
You guys look so much alike.
Oh, we do. And he's almost 40 now.
Probably still do look alike.
Oh, he's a handsome young man too. Shakes his head like all the young men do today.
So, you really must have enjoyed that cruise in the Mediterranean, getting to kind of see the world and.
At least that area of the world, absolutely. I mean, back then, Greece was not having their major issue like they started having, I guess, beginning of the 2020s. I don't remember exactly when they fell apart, but everything was calm back then. It was when we got back that the USS, what was it? The one that got bombed. The side of it got bombed.
Not sure.
What was it? I'll think of it here in a minute. But Cole, the USS Cole. When the US Cole got bombed, everything was secret. All the pictures, everything was secret. They would not release any of that stuff. And unfortunately, I was in the right place at the right time, and I actually got to see some of the pictures of the damage, being a damage controlman.
Wow. And
those people, I can only imagine the hell that they were going through when they got bombed. I mean, there was a whole 4 decks. I mean, it was amazing to see the pictures. It's like, how do you deal with that? How do you even get in there to start work? You know, it was crazy. I mean, it would be hard to save the ship if you got bombed hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard.
And so these are some pictures of your ship that was on there?
Yeah, this is my ship. Now, these are the helicopter that was part of our crew. Right there. This is part of a drill where we have a dummy that they throw over, and their drill is to go out and get him. So
his name's Oscar?
Yeah, they call him Oscar. I got off it in '93 after that cruise.
When were you on the USS Arkansas? Or
the Arizona. Okay.
The Arizona, sorry.
When I was in Hawaii, when I got ready to transfer, I was at re-enlistment time, because I joined in 81, 4-year enlistment, until 85 I choose. Do I get out and go home, or do I re-enlist? So I re-enlist. And the choice of where I want to re-enlist at, the Arizona Memorial. So when I was on there and did my re-enlistment, I got a flag. And that flag, here's the Arizona, if you don't recall what that looks like. It's okay. Here's my Arizona. And this is me raising that flag.
Wow. That's amazing that you have a picture of you with the flag all those years ago.
Yep. They had a good photographer available. And so I raised that flag. And here's where I gave it away. I raised my hand and gave my life away again. But that was for another 6 years. And I'd gotten a tiny bonus. Back then they were giving bonuses for re-enlistment. And I think I got a $7,000 bonus. Everybody else back then was getting $10,000 and $20,000 bonuses. After taxes, it wasn't a whole lot.
Seems silly that the government would take taxes out of it when the government's the one paying you.
It's income. It's money. It's money.
I see
we
that.
got taxed.
Yeah.
And this is my certificate of authenticity for my flag.
That's awesome that you have all that stuff still.
Yep. And My kids can do whatever they want with it when I'm gone. Maybe you'll go in a museum somewhere. I don't know.
So going back to those 6 years where you were, or not those specific 6 years, but when you were doing your tours in the Mediterranean, I know you said that you did a lot of travel and like extra excursions. What was that
Oh
like?
yeah. Oh my goodness. I actually went on one of the one of the excursions to the only square bullfighting rink in Italy.
Spain?
Spain. Thank you. That's what I stopped thinking about. In Spain, absolutely. In Spain, and that was interesting. So I actually saw a real bullfight. And the interesting thing of it was when they went for the kill, it was right in front of me, and I happened to be in the front row.
Oh.
But I mean, I grew up, with slaughtering animals, so it wasn't a real bad big deal. But it was interesting where they cut off parts and threw them into the crowd.
Oh my God, I didn't know that was a thing.
That was oh yeah, that's
a little
big.
Weird.
That's real popular. Got to have a souvenir of that cow.
I guess.
But then they would just take the cow and go butcher it and give it to the people that needed the food.
Were you traveling mostly alone when you did excursions,
no.
with your fellowship mates?
You never go alone.
No.
In fact, I had a buddy. His name was Bob Clark, and he was married. He had a wife down in Florida, but he and we went all over the place. I mean, he and I walked. We would walk forever. That man had a pace that I almost couldn't keep up with. But the captain just said, "Hey, buddy up! Don't go out there alone." Even though I was a first class, he was a chief. I mean, the captain and the XO were going out doing things together. I mean, it was. Some people called it the love boat, but but every ship has their situations. But it was a lot of fun.
Intership drama.
Oh yeah. But it wasn't too bad, really. It wasn't too bad. The rumor mill was bigger than anything else, and that's always the way it is.
Sounds like a little high school on ship.
Yeah, the Navy's no better. I mean, especially with these young people. And I was young with them. So, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, we're working hard. We play hard.
What would you say is like a particularly humorous or funny event or unusual event that happened to you in your years of service
The one that sticks with me the most is on the AFS-2, the Sylvania, being the DC-1 on board. One of the guys had come down and said, "Hey, DC-1, I need you to come up the flight deck." I'm like, okay. I get up there and they go, "We got a problem with this little hatch." What it is, it's a barrier. Mm-hmm. It's a barrier that, it might be 2 foot wide by 8 feet long, and it's made out of steel, and it's got the non-skid on it. What it is, it's a barrier that pops up when the elevator goes down to keep a fork truck from backing down in the hole.
Okay.
Okay, they pop up when the hole's created. It keeps people and things.
That makes sense.
Okay, so it's on a hinge, which you can actually push it down with your hand, but it automatically pops up when it needs to. Well, at that time, the elevator was down, these things were up, and one of the guys says, "DC-1, we got a problem with this one." And he puts his hand, he's got a glove on, he puts his hand down there saying, "I got a problem right down here," and somebody else steps on that hatch. Oh. I nearly fell out of my skin. I mean, the first thing I did was I went over and I pushed the guy that stepped on the hatch because I just thought he just squished this kid's hand.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it was a joke. And he put his hand out of the glove, and he's all fine. My heart just totally went out of my body.
They were pranking you.
They were pranking me. They got me so good. And then they got other people too that I got to watch, and that was.
Sounds like you guys had your fair share of shenanigans.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I helped create other shenanigans, but I was the fire marshal on board as well. So shenanigans was not cool, in the long run. Because safety. I was the safety. So they got me.
What would you say was the best part of your service experience? Either specific or general.
Security. Knowing that I had a paycheck coming in, knowing I was going to have something to eat, knowing I had a place to sleep. That issue, I think, has been a lifelong issue. Even when I was little, when we moved to Arizona, we lived in a little 2-room shack that was built. An outhouse, that whole situation. Picture it, it was there. And so that insecurity has stayed with me. even to this day.
It sounds like it was, yeah, when you're in the service, there's a guarantee of all those things.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it may change, but you're guaranteed. You get on board that ship, everything else is taken care of for you. You just do what you're supposed to. Yeah, it's control, and it's structured.
Mm-hmm.
It is that's part of me and my needs of being in a structured situation.
Yeah.
So, and it was okay. When it came to me growing into a leadership position, I expected other people to follow the same rules, and that's where it was at. So it made it easier.
So you said that you got out of the service because you wanted to spend more time with your sons. So what year did you say that you got out?
In 1993, I got out, and I had separated from my husband, gotten into an apartment with the boys, and gotten a job as a sheet metal mechanic.
In where?
In Virginia,
Okay.
in Norfolk, Virginia. And I only worked for them for a few months, and then I found a job as a contractor on aircraft carriers.
Oh, okay.
On aircraft carriers.
So you're like an independent contract for the military then?
Yep, military contracts, guaranteed pay. There was no way that they could give me less than somebody else. It was a wage-determined contract, is what they called them.
That must be really important, especially you don't like worrying about the pay discrepancy as a female working
there
in sheet
again.
metal. And
there again, I always knew that I was going to get paid less because I was a female. So it's like I always try to find myself positions to where I was equal and was going to get equal pay for what I was doing, same as the guys. And I was able to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a ton of you had so much experience doing this kind of work, and then you probably had people who were newer and trying to tell you what to do, or didn't respect your authority.
Well, no, it wasn't. At that point, I wasn't an authority, starting out with that. I was just one of the workers. What we were doing was training the aircraft carrier sailors on how to do maintenance on their firefighting systems, their hatches, doors, and closures.
Interesting.
Yeah, piping systems, anything, the valves, for example, solenoid operated valves, any of those I knew how to tear apart and fix. So it was their firefighting systems.
Did you ever actually have to fight a fire on any of your ships, or
No.
were you guys got pretty lucky there?
No, we got pretty lucky. I made sure that we didn't have situations that turn. If I saw rags on there in a can somewhere, get them out of here. You don't put things in a position where you're going to have that.
It's very
And so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I really tried to make sure, as my responsibility, to make sure that we were going to be safe as we could be.
So when you were working, doing the sheet metal work and training as a military contractor, what was your relationship with your sons like? Did you guys get to do a lot of fun things on the weekends?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. We love the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Chesapeake Bay is our favorite spot. I love, fishing, shore fishing. And I did have my long old pole. Kids would go down there and I'd be fishing and they'd be playing in the water. And I never did catch Papa Flounder.
How old were your kids when you got out of the service?
Let's see, that was 93. So Matthew was 3. He was born in 90. And then Richard, he was born in 84. So he was almost 10.
Sounds like just the right time to get back in there and, spend a lot of time in those developmental years especially your older son.
6 years later, I come home. Kids come home from visiting their dad during Easter. And I come home to a note on the door where there's a court order that Richard wants to go live with his dad, or with his adopted dad. And I mean, it just floored me. So I let both of them go live with their dad. And so that tore me apart. That just
must have been really hard.
And so that's, I could have been still in the Navy and retiring. Had I known that I was going to be such a bad mother. No, I'm not a bad mother. I allowed a new man in my life and married him, and he had 4 kids, and I wanted to help. So it took away from my 2, and they wanted to go away.
Yeah. It sounds like, though, that you've kind of repaired that relationship. And
my boys and I. In fact, my youngest and I have actually talked about that separation of when he went to live with his dad. And he's like, Mom, you should have kept me. So I carry that guilt as well. But he has turned out to be such a cool young man. He's actually provided me with a grandson.
Oh.
He's baby daddy. He never married the mama either. So it's like mom like son, son like,
Well, I mean, there's always those what ifs if things had changed, but it sounds like it all worked out for the best.
And I know that the Gavin, he's my grandson. I know that he will come looking for us. anybody wants to know who their family is. Anybody,
Mm-hmm.
everybody. And Gavin, I'm looking for you, sweetheart. You come find me.
Still got grandma right there.
Yeah, I'm here. I've been saving things for you. I'm ready for that hug.
Mm-hmm. So, did you move from Colorado, like from Virginia to Colorado? When did that happen?
Okay, actually I didn't move to Denver. I actually at that time, what was it? This was in 2000. I want to say 2005. I had left the contracting job.
Mm-hmm.
It reached a point where there was so much unrest that I couldn't maintain myself.
Yeah.
To where I was getting angry about things, and so it's like, well, I got to go.
Mm-hmm. Just wasn't right for you anymore.
It wasn't right. It was time to go. I mean, I've been with them for 12 years. Maybe 12 years, been with them 12 years. There's something about me in 12 years of things doing. So sure enough, we move, and I offer to get my ex-husband. This is my first ex-husband, Matthew's dad.
Mm-hmm.
He was from California as well. And I said, well, hey, I liquidated my 401k, and I said, I will get us out to California, but I want to go to Oregon, where my mother is. My mother had moved to Oregon at that point during these years. And here again, I'm trying to get close to my mother.
Yeah. How did you reconnect with your mom really quick? How did that happen?
Well, after the foster family, I tried to reconnect with her, and the feeling wasn't the same. I wasn't going to get the love that I got from the family.
Yeah.
So then I joined the Navy. And then I'd actually, when Richard was born, I actually brought my mom and my sister out to Hawaii for a visit.
Wow.
So, we stayed close for what our family is.
Yeah.
It's not a close family. But then once we see each other, I haven't seen each other in a while, we see each other, not much changed.
Yeah.
We're still asleep to the world. Anyway.
Yeah, so you moved out to California with your second husband?
No, we actually drove the truck in his car out to Oregon.
Okay.
Dropped me off and my stuff, and then he took the truck down to California, because where his mother was still living.
So were you guys divorced at that time?
Oh yeah, we were divorced already. Yeah, we were divorced already.
But you were seems like you were still pretty close.
We were amicable. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't live with him, but he wasn't a bad guy.
Yeah.
Bill's a pretty cool guy. Bill, you're all right. You're in California. I'm here. You're all right.
So Bill was your second husband or
first husband?
First husband. Okay, and then your second husband, where did he?
He was a Virginia drywall hanger metal.
He didn't want to leave.
He just needed a little help until, I don't know, I was helping somebody again in life. That was my way of helping. And with the foster homes that I had been in, I felt that I could help him and his 4 kids for a while. But it took away from my 2.
Yeah. So what was that like in Oregon, living with your mom?
Well, I had stayed with my mom in my aunt's house. Unfortunately, my mom was living with my aunt, her younger sister. And so I'd stayed there for just a little while. I had gotten a job at night, and I did that for just a few months. But I ended up going to Bremerton, Washington. I moved up to Bremerton, Washington, and getting a job in the shipyard as a pipe fitter. So Aerotech was actually the contractor that I was working for. So I was working on pipe fitting again on ships up in Bremerton. And then I had a chance to go to Japan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they had a month-long contract to put in a new AFFF piping system into one of the systems on board this ship that was out in very southern tip of Japan. I can't remember exactly where we were, but I was there for 30 days in August. And it was wonderful. I got a chance to get around different places in Japan while I was there. Hooked up. I actually found a young lady that liked giving tours, and so she would drive a bunch of us around, and she would expect a really good tip when we were done with the trip, type of thing.
But that sounds amazing. Must have been a big switch from your other places. Japan is a much different country.
Well, the thing about Japan, and I had an attitude that was taught to me, as all baby boomers usually had, was that Japan was the enemy. Okay, World War II.
And you even worked on Pearl Harbor, which probably reinforced that.
Absolutely.
Did that kind of change your perspective then, being in Japan and being like, oh, they're just like us?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And the thing of it that bothered me the most was their culture.
Mm-hmm.
The women would walk 3 feet behind the men, that kind of thing. All of the negatives about the culture were put out to me, basically, or what I absorbed. And so I was never going to go there. So when here I am, the kids are basically grown, and I'm like, I'm going to Japan. What, Mom? You're going to Japan? So they were shocked more than I was shocked.
Yeah.
Because I had talked so negatively about it all their lives, which is bad on my part. But yeah, it was beautiful. The people were gorgeous. The food was outstanding. You cannot get better food than in its own country.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Greece. Oh, my God.
I've been to Greece as well, and the food was
I ate my weight in gyros.
Oh.
Oh, my goodness. Those were good.
Even today, like I was there a couple years ago, you can get a euro for like $3, and it's delicious, and it's like
Authentic.
Well, it's €3, actually.
Yeah.
€3 for a euro.
There we go. There it is.
So you were living in up in Washington for a couple more years as well?
Yeah, I was up there just for that couple of years, and then I was 47, and that would be 2007. I had stepped off a pallet during a break, twisted my leg, and tore up the cartilage in my left knee.
Oof.
Totally tore it loose to where it would get caught and I couldn't straighten my knee.
Oh my God.
So I ended up having knee arthroscopic surgery. But for a year after that, because once I hurt myself, I was on light duty basically. And and the contract had ended shortly after that, just a couple weeks later. So they kind of let me go. They laid me off. So I was eligible for unemployment. So I got on unemployment, and working that kind of job, it was good money.
Yeah.
So I was able to continue paying the rent there. So I basically stayed where I was there up in Bremerton for a year. And I lost a lot of weight. I just laid around sleeping. I was depressed. I couldn't go anywhere, do anything because my knee hurt.
Yeah.
So I did that for a year, and it reached a point where I've got to get back down to Portland. So my mom came up and helped me get back down to Portland, and tried to get into a place. And I had a really tough time down there. Again, I was having troubles, and I wanted to end it.
Yeah.
And I found a way to do it, and it was by carbon monoxide poisoning. And so I had my little get-up in the back of my car, and I actually tried it once. And the effect of it was the spirit came into my left ear and screamed at me, "Not yet." I believe in spirits.
Yeah.
They are there. They're here with us. They're always with us. And that's my goal today now, is to find more spirituality in life. So I was not happy there as well.
Yeah, but it sounds like, just at the last minute, you got the message that you needed from the universe.
And at that point, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Well, I got a part-time job at a laundromat, and that my mom had worked at. So I worked there for like 10 more years.
Wow.
In her place, part-time. And I made it okay.
And you were closer then to your boys now that you were back in Oregon. So did you get to?
No, actually, Richard had joined the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay.
So he was off doing Iraqi war.
Oh, wow. That must have been.
He did 3 tours over there. And it was really, really hard for me because I'm like, I would rather go back over. But he went Marine.
Yeah, so
he went
really
Marine
on the front lines there. And...
He went Marine. He was actually a canine handler.
Oh, wow.
At one time. But
interesting.
He lost that early in his military career. He got in trouble. So he lost his certification. But he actually went back to that after he got out. So he still does dogs.
And then what about your younger son? Where was he at the time?
Well, the poor thing wanted to join the military, but he couldn't. We had had an accident when he was little to where the seatbelt wasn't low enough.
Oh, in a car accident, yeah.
And so it squished his belly, and they had to remove 5 inches of his intestines.
Oh, gosh.
He's a little bitty guy. And so
due to
that, that disqualified him. Yep. But in the meantime, the poor kid, he gets up into his football in high school, and he's breaking his hip by falling on it, and he breaks
oh my gosh
his arm by twisting it, and the poor guy. And then he's broken. He moved to Tennessee with me after we left Oregon.
Oh, he came with you?
Yeah, because when we left Oregon, Mom had moved to Denver to move to my sister's here in Loveland, and my aunt went to Arizona. They bought a house down there, and they sold their house up in Portland. So everything's splitting up, and I'm left up in Portland by myself. It's like, I got to get out of here. So I find that the job that I had gotten was a home-based job. I could work from home on the computer.
Yeah.
So that worked out well, and I could live anywhere I wanted to. So it reached a point where I wanted to go back to the South. I felt the need to go to the South. My premonitions are just way too early than when needed. It's like my premonitions come, and I shouldn't be doing anything for 2 or 3 years. But when my premonition comes, I act on it, and then I'm sitting there waiting for something to happen, for the next 2 or 3 years. Well, we moved to Tennessee, and I have a foster sister, the second foster home I lived in. She and I were pretty close. She had a house, and so we moved into it. My son and I, because he was in California and he wanted to get out of California.
How old was he?
He's my younger brother. He was born in '90, so at this point he's 20 something.
Yeah, early 20s.
Yeah, because he's born in '90, and so he's 33 this year. Yeah, he'll
so
be 33.
20s, yeah.
So he came with me, and he was trying to find him a job, and I'm working from home, and reaches a point where I want the supervisor's job in Arkansas. And so I go to Arkansas for the supervisor's job, but it doesn't work out. And so now I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I put everything in storage back in Tennessee. I come back to Denver because now this is 2020.
Okay.
And this is March of 2020. Guess what happened in March of 2020?
You were trapped here. Yeah.
You're trapped here. Now, keep in mind too, when I was in Oregon, I started delivering food with Postmates, which then Uber Eats came out from Uber. So I picked up both those platforms, and I was making a living delivering Uber Eats.
During the pandemic, everyone's getting it. So yeah.
In fact, June, I made $5,000.
Wow.
I was homeless here in Denver because I come to Denver. I have an aunt here in Denver, and I was basically camped out in her backyard. Okay, and homeless, and being hot, I spent my time in my car delivering food. So, and that wasn't bad, but that could go away as quickly as a thunderstorm can.
Yeah.
But I was able then, and this is 2020, to get back into the VA system and get some help with the HUD dash. So, and now I'm very secure in housing. My Social Security just started this month. I applied and got it. So I am safe, secure with income and housing. And I just got my e-bike, and I have transportation.
That's awesome. And does the VA also help with like any medical things that you need here? Do you get
Mostly. In fact, in November, I have an appointment for the knee to see if I can get it replaced. This is the left knee. The right knee I injured while I was in the Navy, and I've been overcompensating with the left all these years.
Oh, so
So it is gone. I'm having to use a cane nowadays.
Do you have any hobbies that you do for fun?
Oh, absolutely. I crochet.
Like to do? Ooh, nice.
I crochet. I have an inflatable kayak.
That's awesome.
Yep. And I've actually taken it down to the thingy downtown, the Confluence Park.
I'm not sure I know where that is.
Oh, it's right downtown. Where Platte River.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the REI down there.
Oh, I do know what we're talking about now.
You can actually kayak through that.
That's really cool.
I took it down there. And then I've got my e-bike that I like to ride. I'll paint by number from once in a while. Nothing a whole lot physical because of my knees.
Yeah. Well, that's good that you have the bike so you can pedal as much and then take a break with the electric part. And
Oh yeah, it's you go.
Oh, and kayaking too. No knees at all. Just sitting. And
in fact, I got the extra strength. I got the extra strength battery. So then.
What would you say is some important life lessons that you learned from military service? How has it kind of impacted your life today?
Oh, at this point, I don't have a whole lot of trust in it. I trusted the military a lot back in the day because they knew it all. They were teaching me, and then I was to carry that on to teach others. However, today it has become so overwhelmed with us as vets. I feel like looking at the doctors and how they have to deal with everything on a daily basis. We're just numbers going through a system, and they're touching us as we go by. And that's about it. When I ask for certain things, I get something different, which I didn't want. So then I end up looking bad in the system. I don't know how to really get what I really need. until I fall down and have to get an ambulance to bring me in to be seen.
That's kind of we've heard that a lot, that feels like they're there for the really, really bad stuff, but not there for like the
Prevention.
medium bad stuff that keeps it from getting so
Prevention.
bad. Like
Prevention
especially,
is, yeah.
Talk about mental health. Like they're there when you try to commit suicide or you feel like you're going to commit suicide, but maybe not there when you're like really, really having a rough time and like you're not quite to that exact point. That's something we've heard a lot from Vietnam vets, especially.
Well, I will give you a story. I was in Little Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling really, really low, and I pulled off into a parking lot. I called the crisis number. And in that call, all I wanted to do was someone to talk to. And 20 minutes later, there's 3 cop cars circling my car. And they call an ambulance to carry me off without my consent. And I'm like, and by the time that conversation was almost done, and just before those cop cars showed up, I was feeling better. I was ready to go back to work doing my Uber Eats. And then they show up, and I've got an abandoned car. I've got friends that are 30 minutes away, in a different town. They have no clue what happened to me.
Yeah.
I'm put into a mental hospital for 3 days without any access to the outside world. And so my friends tried to find me. They went to the liquor store that had video of the parking lot, and they found where the cops took me off, and they couldn't figure out why. They wrote all over my car, "Anna, where are you? Call us."
Sounds like you have good friends, though. What do you wish more civilians knew about veterans and / military service?
No. I wish we could go back in time and take care of our Vietnam vets better than they got.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I just cry for them. You still see them on the side of the street. And I'm like, why can't they, we need to get the word out to the vets, because I am in the system. Mm-hmm. I found a place to live in the system. Okay, I don't have a chip in me yet. However, I've got head VASH housing, where I'm only paying 1/3 of my income towards my rent. And rent is crazy everywhere. Okay, and I got my Social Security, so 1/3 of that is going to go towards my rent. The rest is mine. What little left there is. Okay, but I wish that everybody. I did not get a good exit from the Navy. Mm-hmm. They don't ever give you a good exit meeting, whatever you want to call it, to give you information to what to do when you get out. It's just not good. And maybe it got better since I got out. Mm. But the thing, and it's overwhelming because there's so much stuff out here for us. And I tell you what, Mr. Trump, he set us up good. It was him that set up the ability for me to walk into the emergency room or into the homeless office, to get into housing, to get, oh my God, everything. There's so many things. There was a whole list that I actually found of the things that Trump did for the vets, but we don't know about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really great that those programs that exist. It just seems like there needs to be a better, transitory program or, help for that transition.
I wish that we could. I ride the bus now all the time because I don't have a car. Mm-hmm. I wish that we could put the signs on the bus. Are you a homeless vet? Call this number.
I completely agree.
But then again, it would overwhelm the system again. Yeah. So they don't put the word out. So whenever I find somebody that's a vet, I will bug them. I say, "Are you a vet? If you are, go to the hospital. Go to the hospital right now.
Get into those programs.
Get in. They're here. They're here. Yeah. They're here. You can have a life."
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like you've gotten to a really good place in your life now, and that you have, you've got your children and you're got a place to live and consistent income and good hobbies.
Yep. My main purpose in life at this point is to find spiritual alignment. I know that I came to this experience in life to help shift the way of thinking. Mm. And I knew that when I was really, really young, being abused. It's like, I know this is not the way the life's supposed to be. It was not supposed to be this way. It's going to be better. And so with that, in trying to recover from being a Baptist in the South, I call myself a recovering Baptist. Sorry if I offend anybody. But I'm finding the spiritual alignment around us, and that we're all one, and trying to absorb that and trying to get that to sink in is so hard because of the ego.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm been an A-type personality, and you follow these rules, and it's like those rules are BS. They're all BS. So I'm trying to find the right rule, which is to let go and let God.
Yeah, I think it's a very personal journey and difficult journey, finding like individual spirituality and like what your connection is to the greater universe. And a lot of times, a lot of the like mainstream religions don't quite teach it in that way. It's more like these are the things you have to do to like find salvation, as opposed to like, here's how you fit into the world, which I think is more valuable lessons.
And then what's interesting too is you see the younger people coming into the world, yourself included, and you've got a different attitude, which is cool, because I see it in my sons as well, because they were not treated like I was treated growing up.
Yeah.
So I already broke the chain. I already made the change for them, and they're making the change. And like you guys are making the change.
Yeah.
And the kids that are being born today are going to be such interesting spirits. They're going to be so in tune and aligned, and I'll be gone by then. But hopefully I can get to come back, because it's like there's so many exciting things coming in the world.
I love hearing you say that, because I know there's like a big impression these days that, the younger generation is not tough enough, or they're not like, they're super soft. And I'm like, and it's kind of a weird thing to me, because our parents and grandparents grew up really, really hard, and they're always saying, you want an easier life for your children. And how could that be a bad thing? Like, obviously it's important to have perspective and be mature and see that the world's not just about you, but you don't need to have like a harsh upbringing in order to have that perspective.
Well, what's interesting, my older son, actually, he and I were talking about something like that. He goes, Mom, I wish you'd raise me a little tougher. And I'm like, huh? Here I'm trying to make your life a little easier. And it's like, that's okay, because he's going through it. He's doing his thing. I really hope that he's really super happy.
Yeah. It's all about, instilling a sense of responsibility and independence in children. And you can do that without, whacking them.
Exactly.
So
it may take a little longer, but
I think a good last question would be, what message would you like to leave for future generations and, for your children who might view this interview?
Oh my. Chase your passion. Chase it like there's nothing left. And if it changes, chase it too. I still am seeking my passion. But passion comes and goes, just like joy and laughter and sadness. It comes and goes. But when you find your joy, live it, be in it. You guys are headed to some interesting times, and I envy you in a way. But it's going to be good. It's going to turn out good. It's going to be crazy for a while, but it's going to turn out. Just have faith in yourself. Know that you can do it, whatever it is.
I think that's a beautiful message to leave it on. Do you have anything else that you'd want to talk about before we finish?
I'm great. I appreciate this time.
Well, we appreciate you coming in. As we talked about, like, sometimes that you feel like a number in the system. And so this is the kind of project where we get to, hear individual stories and, give you are Miss Anna White. You're not a number in the system. So thank you.
And I'm not just DC1 anymore.
Yeah.